Well, howdy YouTube, it's Petey Two Finger here. I'm working on this battery powered guitar amp. So I've got the switch installed, spot for an LED, 10mm LED is going to go here like that. Then there'll be an input over here, 3 jacks for the reverb, master volume, gain, bass, mid-range, treble. And then this little emblem, I don't know where I got that, but on the inside I've made a little bit of progress. We have 2 P-speaker outputs. These holes were filled in where I had a solid state amp in here. It was an amp that I had pulled the guts from a 60mm film projector amp. Anyway, that was a low quality chip amp. The one we've got in here, this board here, is a TPA 3116D2 mono 100 watt. Class D amp board. There's 2 outputs here. I think if I could plug 2 12s in there at 8 ohms a piece, it would come out to be 4 ohms, which that amp will take that just no problem. So most of the time I'll be running this amp off of a single 12, but it has these 4 battery packs, are 3 each of 18650 lithium-ion cells, so that's 12.5 volts. So these 2 are wired in series, so that brings it up to 24 volts. And then there's an additional mirrored 24 volts hooked up in parallel to double the capacity. So that wiring goes through this fuse here. That's a 5 amp fuse. And then there's a capacitor here. This is the capacitor that I found wired in the original amp. Or the original 60mm film projector amp had this capacitor in it, and I'm reusing it. Is it pointless? It probably is pointless. I'm not here to debate that. And then there's a 12 volt circuit here, which is going to go, we're going to add a, which I completely forgot about. Oh my goodness. We're going to add a
voltage regulator.
7809 voltage regulator circuit with some power filtering capacitors. And then, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot that. Oh well, it's no big deal. It's a process. Building the amp is a process. So, what we have so far is just the battery pack, the main amp hooked up to the output with these jacks here. We have the fuse hooked up. The white power wiring is run. So now I can go and take the circuitry, which is finished and tested. Here's the spring reverb driver. Hey, look at that. And one of the spring tanks. So the idea is we have a Laney Super Group 100 watt Mark 1 Vero layout that uses JFETs instead of tubes. Analog Mike Piera came on my Facebook page and said, what? The old Laneys use FETs? And he was just jabbing me. He was just being a complete asshole by making that comment. I wrote Laney Mark 1 JFET preamp build. I clearly labeled it. I wasn't trying to fool anyone into thinking that I'm using tubes or anything. And again, it's this thing of, you know, oh, you got a tube rig? Okay, you're an adult. Oh, anything but tubes? Come on over here, and we're going to be having milk and juice. But pull out your mat. It's nap time now, you know. And like, I just don't roll with that, you know. For one, this is all about making music remote in the forest. That's why I'm building this. We live in an apartment. If I want a tube amp, I'll get one of my tube amps out and play through a tube amp. Got plenty of tube gear here that I can use, including tube amplifiers. And that's not the point of this project. Okay, so can we just get past that and deal with the fact that it's a JFET based circuit that the preamp that I'm building in the preamp section. So it's going to be 12 volt battery pack. When you turn the switch on, the 24 volts goes to the capacitor, which is pointless. I know, that's, calm down. Okay, it's just there for looks. It's 2300 UF, 65 volt. And then the 12 volts will go through the 7809 voltage regulator, breaking that down to 9 volts, which will power the ruthenium spring reverb driver and the Laney. And then this here, this is a spring tank. The spring tank, I got little clips here that are going to go on each 8 clips, and we're going to tie pieces of what the elastic that goes on your mask that you wear for COVID. Been picking up masks that I find in the street and getting hair scrunchies. We're going to use that elastic, so this is going to be suspended in here by elastic, because if you have this sitting on the same surface that's connected to your speaker cabinet, it will feed back, because that's just what it is. It's a transducer connected to a spring. So you need to isolate that from vibration, and I think it just worked out really well that this chassis had these 4 little spots here for me to put those rings on there that we got from the dollar store and their office supply section, and then we bought some hair scrunchies. So that's so far with the amp. Again, here's the preamp. We biased this in another video. It works. Those are the SMT JFETs. Sorry to Analog Man Mike Piera. Again, a guy who calls himself Analog Man, showing up and policing me for inaccuracies on my Facebook is telling, because all I've done on my social media and everything is go on and on about my disdain for cork sniffers, people who cast judgment on others about their gear, cork sniffing. I'm for real because I have tubes, you're fake because you have a modeler, that type of thing. I can't stand it. And then have this guy, Analog Mike Piero, who people just worship him for putting a transistor that doesn't leak as much as what they got stock in their fuzz face. You know, mind blown, all these atomic emojis. This guy's a fucking genius. You know, the parts count of the circuit is 9 components in a fuzz face or whatever it is. So yeah, maybe he walks on water to some people. To me, he's a guy who successfully marketed himself by adding analog to his name. And I knew it was just a moment of time before something was gonna happen. I really thought the guy was a real deal kind of guy. And I really didn't think he was going to come on my page and attack me the way he did. I called him out on it, and he claimed that he doesn't legitimately know that he was like, I was just asking a question. I didn't know that the Laney had tubes. The famous story that Iommi came over to the States and couldn't get his sound on the American 110 because he was used to the 220. Yeah, that's rock and roll 101. So that was a story about me getting my balls busted on my own Facebook page. Wasn't the old Laney's tube vacuum tubes? And he put multiple exclamation points and question marks on it. So this is my amp. I'm proud of my work. Even though it's not tube, maybe one day I'll grow up and be a big boy and have some tube electronics for you. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. We'll be back with more footage on this. And again, I'll probably be using it live as part of my wet rig, my existing outdoor rig, which is all digital. This is going to be just a dirt box, like the guitar going into a buffer splitter. That's a chip, it's an op amp. And then it'll split and go one channel to the digital rig with the PA, and then just like a Friedman BEOD or a Dirty Shirley or maybe a Marshall Governor, whatever sounds good with this, through a Fender 12, dry, wet. So this, you'll be seeing this. I'm really excited about this. The idea of building a battery powered amp that has good tone and spring reverb is very, very appealing to me. So, did I do good? I think I did pretty good. We'll have to see when I wrap it up. And huge apologies to Analog Mike Piera. I'm so sorry. So sorry.